think so.
I was invited to do a talk. Saint Ephraim was my first talk. Then I had to do other talks, but I came back to Saint Ephraim is very active in the contemporary society. Blown away by it, so I just thought that's not worth thinking. Tell me that. So, basic facts about Saint Ephraim. He was born on 16 September. So he was born 14 September 1384. He was born Sponsorship was in 402. He was at the monastery of and then he was married to a woman in 1486. So the facts in between that we have about his life are a little bit scant. Actually, all of what we know about Saint Ephraim has been revealed by Saint Ephraim's faithful ritual dreams. So Saint Ephraim first came to life about 250 years ago.
I can hear you. Yeah. I wasn't sure what you're doing action-wise.
So that's when he first came out. It was about 250 years ago, and what we know is that when he was a young boy, I think about 8 years old, from what I can gather, I read a few different sources. His father died. They were quite poor. They were in Greece. He was one of 8 children, and then his mum was in the church, so she raised the children to have a love for Christ. When he was about 12 years old, there was an order from the Turkish Sultan that all the young boys in Greece had to be taken from their parents, from their families, and trained up in the Turkish army for the purposes of coming back and killing the Greek people and at the same time converting to Islam. So at that point, his mum said to him, "Run away, find the nearest monastery, which is not in an area that's been occupied, and ask to become a novice, and good luck to you, kind of thing." It wasn't totally random. He had apparently expressed an intention that he would like to become a monk. So that's what he did. He ended up leaving his mum, and then when he's 18, or 18-ish, I understand that he gets to the monastery. So I don't know if he was travelling the whole time or what happened here, there and everywhere. But he ends up going to the Annunciation of the Theotokos, a monastery in a place called Amamon, which is now Makri. And they accept him as a novice. He becomes, shortly thereafter, it's not a big period, he becomes a monk. And then a little while after that, he becomes a priest. So at the monastery, he was there for a little while, and then he decided that he would actually go and build a skeet nearby, and then he would come down to the brothers on a weekly basis for liturgy and feast days. So that's what ended up, that was sort of the program that they were running for a while. Anyway, let me get the date out. Sorry, probably should have kept my notes open the whole time. This is why I'm not a very good lawyer, by the way. So, year before he dies, actually. So yeah, in 1425, the Turks make their way to the monastery where he's at, And on that particular day, Saint Ephraim was in his ski. He was not at the actual monastery. The Turks found the brothers. They were trying to A, get them to convert, B, give them the jewels that they believed that they had. The brothers obviously didn't have any jewels and weren't going to convert. So they killed all the brothers and left with nothing except kill scores. And they left the area. The next day, Saint Ephraim comes down from his ski to give liturgy, and he finds everyone's been slaughtered, martyred. And I'm assuming he buried them. I don't know. I didn't get that detail from any of the sources. But he then goes back to his ski, and he sort of only will then come down to the church for big feast days. So,
where is the monastery?
It's in now Makri, which is in Greece. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So on the.
So it's near Athens, I think. It's near Athens. I think.
When I looked it up, it was quite far north.
Okay.
So on the eastern side. So on the Feast of the Cross, on September 1425, Saint Ephraim goes down to the main church to Liturgisi, and on that day, the Turks have gone back to the monastery. Sorry, it's so sad.
Terrible.
So they tried to beat him up and make him change his faith, which he didn't do. He put up with it for 8 months. And so the reason I was quite keen on getting the PowerPoint out was because there are icons, like, they show the kind of tortures that he put up with for 8 months. So on the final day, they did actually hang him by his feet and drive a stake with fire on it through him. It's cut off. They were pretty brutal for a period of 8 months, locking him in his cell. No food, no water, change. No, I won't. In the end, he gave up his spirit, and now we have Saint Ephraim the martyr. So that's brief history of his life. So this is now the church that we have today. So about 250 years ago, he appeared to a nun and told her in this dream about the church where he was. She went, she restored it. This is, if you go today to Now Makri, this is what you'll find. You'll find two actually really cool things at the monastery. The first would be, if anyone's been to a monastery, what might you expect to find?
Really?
Yes. So, we have, the other picture came up first. We also have the tree on where he was. They built like a little chapel around it. This is actually the tree on which they hung him and where he died. So, there you go. Sorry, I didn't train for PowerPoint since like year 3. So there we've got his whole body, and also we've got the tree where he was martyred. So that's what we have, like our kind of tangible memory of Saint Ephraim. So the next part, I guess what I'll do is I'll talk about what he's doing these days. So this is our friend, Rula Yelyavu. Any Cypriots here? Oh yeah. Have you been watching Ert for the last 30 years? No, okay. Rula is actually a very famous, this is news to me because I haven't been watching Ert for 30 years, much to my father's disgust. She is a famous news anchor, and in '95 she was actually diagnosed with cancer. Until she gave the interview from which I'm about to give you more information about her journey through cancer, actually she kept it from the media that she was very unwell. So she got diagnosed with thyroid cancer in '95. They operated, and every 2 years after that it kept coming back. So she was quite unwell. She was going through the throes of it. And every 2 years, so she was going through the surgery and the chemo, and then he'd come back. So in about 2016, she heard about I'm taking this from what she said now, by the way, so I'm happy to give you source material and links later if you'd like. So she was saying that she heard about I just got louder. She was saying that she heard about a medical institute in Israel where what you could do is send them like your biopsy results and all your blood samples and tissues and whatever, and they would end up telling you if it was worth fighting the cancer. So she sent off her samples, and she got an answer from Israel a few months later, and they said, "Oh no, this is worth fighting. Come to Israel. We'll do an operation." The cancer had spread to the trachea, right? So it's pretty red hot surgery. It's like right on the C-spine. So she goes to Israel for the purposes of getting the surgery. They're not in Jerusalem. They're about, I understand that they stay about 40 minutes out of Jerusalem. And she goes to her doctor and they do pre-surgery scannings, and what comes up on the scan is this gigantic tumour in her neck, right? So the doctor says to her, "Yeah, look, you can see the tumours right here. You're going to need the surgery. Sign this paper. We'll do it tomorrow. By the way, there's a 95% chance you won't be able to walk again because of where, and do much at all actually, because of where the cancer's located. If we accidentally touch something, it might not go very well. You might get your life, but you might lose a bit of quality of life." So she signs off on the paper to do surgery tomorrow. That evening, she's with her sister in the hotel room. She reckons that something just grabbed her, an idea just grabbed her. She wanted to go to the Ayodafo, how would you, like the tomb, the Holy Sepulchre, thank you, the tomb, yeah, the sepulchre. So apparently at that point it's absolutely belting down rain, you wouldn't want to go outside, but she says to her sister, no, I want to go. So they hail a taxi. The taxi driver's saying, "I'm not taking you to Jerusalem. Holy Sepulchre's going to close in an hour. It's bucketing down rain." She's like, no, I want to go. So they get there, and they get to the main church where the Holy Sepulchre is, and the priest is locking up. And, sorry, I should just add a little caveat. I'm taking out some details for the purposes of making it a relatively interesting story. So there's the priest is locking the church up. He's a Greek priest, and he's turned around to a bunch of Russian tourists and he's saying, no, we're closed today. Come back tomorrow, 9 a.m. and you can you can venerate the icons. And Rula runs up to him and says, no, please, brother, please, just let me run inside, let me light this candle. She's bought a candle at this stage, by the way. And the priest says to her, "Oh, you're Greek, are you?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Look, go up to Golgotha. There's a little liturgy going on at the moment, and go and venerate there." So her and her sister run up to Golgotha. Mind you, it's still bucketing down rain, and actually, and her sister confirms this, neither of them had actually got wet from the rain at all. Like, it's absolutely pelting down rain. So they run up to the church at Golgotha, and there's two priests doing a liturgy, two Greek priests. And they go to Proskynissi, but Rula sees this monk sitting there, and the monk signals to her, she goes to Proskynissi, and the monk says, no, not yet. So anyway, the liturgy finishes, and the monk approaches her and says, "Oh, you're Rula, aren't you?" And she goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, we've been praying for you. Go on Proskynissi." And this is what she says. She goes, "Oh, maybe one of my friends who knew that I was sick and is in the church, maybe told one of their monk friends, and that's how it gets to this monk, right?" So she goes to Proskynissi, and the monk leaves the room. He comes back about 5 minutes later and says to her, "Oh, here, take this," and he gives her something. She says, "What's this?" He gave her a rock, which was actually from Golgotha, and a little bit of oil from the gandili that was on where she Proskynissi. That's not a past tense verb, but you know what I'm saying. So she's, and he's like, "Look, just go and you'll be well." She's thinking, all right, great, whatever. So they walk down, they start leaving the church. The two priests, because they've finished the liturgy, they've packed up, they've left. And as they're leaving the Holy Sepulchre area, she sees the two priests and she says, "Hey, who was that monk?" And the priest goes, "What monk? There was no monk." And she goes, no, there was a monk, look what he gave me. And the priest goes to her, oh, are you sick? And she goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, well, you'll go, you'll be well. Anyway, she's thinking, what is going on? Maybe there was a miracle. Anyway, the next day she shows up to surgery. They do the pre-surgery scans. And they've got her in pre-theatre because that's what happens. And she says, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for surgery. I've done this so many times. Why haven't I gone in yet? She says the people around her, the doctors and the nurses, were all fussing. She couldn't figure out why they were fussing. They were all talking Hebrew. And she can't, like, why aren't they sending me in? Why aren't they sending me in? So she goes to the head doctor. She goes, excuse me, like, why haven't you sent me in yet? Let's get his phone number. The doctor goes to her, look, I'm really sorry, we can't find the cancer. All we can find is like 3 or 4 bad-looking cells, like somewhere through your neck. So what we're proposing to do is, instead of opening you up and doing a very extremely dangerous procedure on you, what we're proposing to do is just send, like, excuse me, I'm not a doctor, but I understand it to be like a blowtorch, where they just like blowtorch the cancerous cells and kill them. So that's what she ended up doing. And she hasn't had the cancer since. Anyway, she goes back to Cyprus, her and her sister, and they're thinking, look, this is bizarre. They hadn't really put it together. And when she goes back to Cyprus and she sees one of her friends who's in the church, she says to him, oh, look, his name's Yorgo. Yorgo, this and this is what happened. And Yorgo goes, oh, look, it must have been a saint. Who is it? And she starts showing her pictures and pictures of saints. The minute she sees Saint Ephraim, she realised that it was Saint Ephraim who cured her of the cancer. And she gave that interview in 2020, and the story is from about 2016, and for 4 years she'd been cancer-free.
I've got to go.
No, that's all right.
But just from what I've heard, thank you very much.
No.
It's very inspiring.
So that's our first friend. I have one more friend, if you'll bear with me. So our second friend is another Cypriot, which tells me that we're in luck if we get sorry. So this is Raphael Dimitriou. He's actually, him and Saint Ephraim are like best buddies. At the time of giving this particular interview, there had been 6 apparitions from Saint Ephraim to Raphael. Post that, there have been more, because Raphael and Saint Ephraim are now working on a book together of Saint Ephraim's life, and also Raphael is the mouthpiece for building a church for Saint Ephraim in Paphos at the monastery of Saint Nelphitos, if anyone knows the monastery of Saint Nelphitos in Paphos. So I won't go through all 6 because we've got limited time, but I'll go through 3 that I really like. So if I like them, you're going to like them too. So the first one, I'll give you a background. Raphael and his wife were living in Germany and they were studying. And every 3 or 4 months they would go back to Cyprus because that's kind of what they do. Anyway, one day he gets bad stomach pain, goes to the doctor, there's cancer. What they decided to do in the end was to operate because he wasn't getting any better through the conservative treatment. The evening before the operation, Raphael's asleep. Sorry, he wakes up because he's in extreme pain. And next to his bed, there's an icon of Saint Ephraim, because he put it there, and an icon of Ayo Andrea. You guys still hear me, or do I need to go? Yep. Yeah. And so there's the 2 icons, and he says, this is from what Raphael says now, it says, I was in so much pain, I looked at the icon and I just said, oh, Saint Ephraim, please help me, I'm in so much pain. 20 minutes later, the pain finishes, and he goes back to sleep. Anyway, when he's asleep, he has a dream, and he's sitting in the pre-theatre with his doctor and his wife. His wife leaves the room, and then all of a sudden another, like an orderly comes in. The orderly is Saint Ephraim, he didn't realise at the time. Takes him out of the doctor's room and into, like, they're going towards the theatre, and Raphael's going, hang on, wait, where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? He says, oh, I'm just taking you to surgery. At that point, Raphael wakes up. Doesn't think anything of it, just another dream. A few hours later, when it's time to get out of his PJs into his clothes for the day, he, as he's getting changed, he sees this on him. And they think, and he describes it as, it felt like a little burn. And he thinks, oh, okay, there's obviously someone's been working, maybe I'm better. And they go to the doctor. The particular cancer doctor at the time was in the church, and so they were willing to hear what he had to say about this. And so he says, look, I think possibly maybe I've been healed, possibly by Saint Ephraim. I prayed to him. So what they did was, before sending him through to surgery, they did another scan, or pre-surgery scan, and this is what came up. So he was totally clear of cancer, and on the liver, there is actually, I've tried to zoom in as best I can, I'm sorry, I'm not a spy, but there's actually, so really bad here, so there's actually a cross on the liver, and there was no cancer. So what ended up happening, however, for our friend, is this brings us to number 2, he kept getting cancer, kept getting unwell, so he got cancer another 4 times, and what would happen is every time they'd go up to prepare for surgery, he would get well again, just inexplicably, and this kept happening, 3 or 4 times. I don't think he saw Saint Ephraim during these periods. Anyway, one day the cancer comes back. The 6th time, she's got 1 + 4. On the 6th occasion, the doctors say, all right, that's it, it's back, let's just go hard, let's go straight into surgery. Something is wrong with you, you keep producing cancers. So the evening before the surgery, him and his wife are in bed, they're about to go to sleep. His wife verifies what I'm about to say to you. Well, in an interesting way. So Raphael's about to go to sleep, and all of a sudden he sees Saint Ephraim walking into the room. He's got a needle, which is like a syringe, which is drawn, ready to administer medication. And Saint Ephraim walks over to him and says, I'm your doctor, I'm your saint. You are well now. And feeds the needle into his mouth. And Raphael says it was so bitter, he couldn't talk, right? And his wife reckons all she saw was that Raphael go like that, because it's just that something was ugly in his mouth. And then he just turns around and says, can you get me some water? As she goes out to get the water, Raphael sees Saint Ephraim leave the room, placing the syringe on the tall boy, right? She comes back in. On the tall boy, this is the syringe. This is not Google Images. Just, if anyone is thinking maybe I just whipped out a syringe from Google Images, this is the one that Raphael reckons is the syringe that was left behind. He's still got it. Anyway, the next day, pre-operation screenings for cancer, where we're going to operate, it's not there again. So that's the second of the 3 that I'll talk about. And then the last one is probably the most, it's the coolest, I think it's the coolest one. So he was in Cyprus, going to fly back to Germany. A few days before he's leaving Cyprus, he starts getting this really bad head pain. By the time he gets off the plane from Germany, the pain is so bad in his head that he can't stand. They go to a new cancer doctor, and what they find is they find cancer on both the outside and the inside of the head. They're very hesitant to operate, given it's like right next to the brain. So they're trying these super strong oral medications. There were to be 3 treatment doses. Following the first treatment dose, the results were really positive. Following the second dose, the results were really positive. He missed his 3rd dose because he was a student and he thought, I'm feeling so good, I'll go sit this exam so I don't have to sit it next year, they're only doing this subject once a year. He missed his 3rd dose, he got very, very sick again, and he ended up passing out at uni, and he woke up in the new cancer doctor's office, and the new cancer doctor says, look, this is not working, we're going to have to upgrade the strength of the oral medication that you're taking, which is what else are we going to do? He goes, I don't think I've got any in stock, but come back next week and we'll give it to you then. The nurse comes in and says, oh, no, we do have some in stock. Give it to Raphael, so he takes it. But he's not getting any better, and they decide to operate. Within a few days of that last dosage of treatment, which was much stronger. He goes home, he has another dream of Saint Ephraim, and when he wakes up, his head doesn't hurt anymore. And he's thinking, he goes, something grabbed me. I thought I would open up my pillowcase to see what was on my pillowcase. So he opens his pillowcase, and there's the cross of Saint Ephraim that he's been leaving behind, right? And so he goes to the doctor. The doctor, because it's the new doctor, the doctor wasn't really, he describes him as a man who wasn't sort of going to be open to the idea that a miracle may have occurred. But he says, look, doctor, I don't want to do this surgery. Can we do another scan? Doctor's like, okay, weirdo. There was no cancer. They didn't find, he was totally cleared. So he goes home that day, and he actually opens the door, and he sees Saint Ephraim in the flesh sitting on his couch. Saint Ephraim has got white doctor's robes on, and he's got a little name tag that says Dr. Ephraim NM, now Makri, right? He sees him like that, 2 seconds, and then he's gone. And so he's pretty happy he's cured of cancer. The next day, doctor calls and says, oh, we're going to send you the bill. I'll send you all the invoices, whatever. By the way, I don't know how that really super strong medicine got in there. It's a total mystery to me because I didn't order it. So he sends Dr. Raphael the papers, and as he's going through the bills and whatever, we have, I don't know if you can see it very well from where you are at the back, but Dr. Ephraim NM was the one who ordered the super strong medication. So that, and the other examples, is why I chose to do my talk on Saint Ephraim. The saints are very real in our lives, and I think it's easy to forget that. I certainly do. And that's why I think I had such a liking for Saint Ephraim. So I will leave it at that. I'm sorry if I've gone on a little bit, but appreciate your time. Thank you.